Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world. And whenever you are tuning into this video, my name is James Porcelli, your lovely host, and welcome to another very special edition of the Ruthless Talk podcast. Yes. Happy Labor Day, as I'm sure most of you guys are watching this as of Monday, supposedly the following day, as I am recording this very late on a Sunday night. We are several hours removed from WWE Clash in Paris. This was the final WWE PLE on Peacock. As now moving forward on WWE PLE, specifically the main roster, NXT PLEs will still be streamed on Peacock. But as far as main roster, Raw, SmackDown, the main roster talent, all of WWE's PLEs will now be on ESPN starting September 20th, as they will be hosting WrestlePalooza in Indianapolis in just a couple of weeks. Did we actually get a good show? Or was it the good old Triple H, Paul Levesque bullshit stew that we're all pretty much accustomed to ever since he has taken over? Well, we're going to find out, shall we? So, this is your Clash in Paris PLE. This is your WWE Clash in Paris 2025 review. Now, I want to give a shout out to my co host, Brian. After this very episode, this is the very last episode until we officially will launch season number 9. Brian Thomas will be back with me for this coming Friday. That is right. This coming Friday will be the first episode of the Ruthless Talk podcast. It will also be the return of the Ruthless Talk Sports Corner. We got a lot of stuff to talk about sports as football season has now arrived. We are now nearing the end of baseball season. Basketball season is going to be approaching very, very shortly. So there is a lot of things in the sports world that is going to be talked about a lot, but not just from any other podcast, but now from your boys. We got college football, we got NFL, and lots of other stuff coming your way, as well as a brand new format that me and Brian, as we will be gathering up everything around the wrestling world, we'll be gathering up the big news stories, the big topics, whether it's WWE, AEW, whatever it is. Maybe it's about a current certain talent or character. Maybe it's about a storyline, a certain PLE or pay-per-view. Who knows? But every single Friday, that is what you guys are going to get as far as pro wrestling, as well as every other week. Once a week, you will get stuff as far as Ruthless Talk Sports Corner. So I am very excited. I know Brian is very excited as well to come back. I actually just saw him just a couple of days ago, and I know he's very excited to come back and to be a part of this platform, to once again be shooting the shit and to get this whole thing going, man, getting season 9 going. So shout out to my co-host Brian, as this again is the very final solo show for me, as Brian Thomas will be back as far as this coming Friday. But that's this coming Friday. But as far as today, we got a review to dissect, to talk about. We are going to dissect this as objectively, as fair as possible. No sugarcoating, no bullshit, as you guys know how I usually rock as far as these reviews. Of course, as always, you see the banner down below. Make sure you guys follow Ruthless Talk on social media. That is Instagram and TikTok, Ruthless_Talk. Of course, make sure you guys check out all of our platforms as far as our podcasts. We are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, as well as here on YouTube. If you want to see me and my beautiful face, as well as Brian Thomas, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are getting very, very close to 500 subscribers on YouTube. So I want to thank everybody that has subscribed over the past several days, weeks, however long it's been. So continue to spread the word. Thank you guys so much for spreading the word, for hitting that subscribe button and spreading the algorithm, helping out the algorithm. So thank you guys so much. As more content will be coming your way as far as WrestlePalooza, as far as AEW All Out, as far as sports, and many other things to come towards the end of the summer, as we got the fall coming up. As the weather is finally starting to cool down, we're finally away from this freaking heat wave that's been going on, I'm sure, all over pretty much all over across America and pretty much who knows wherever else. But summer is slowly going into the rearview mirror as the Labor Day weekend is coming to an end and we are entering the fall season. And there's a lot to talk about, both wrestling as well as in sports. With all that being said, we are now finally going to discuss some Clash in Paris. So let us talk about it, man. Clash in Paris 2025. Before I do get into this first matchup, I do have to say this, man. I am all for a hyped crowd. I'm all for crowds being very, very loud and making noise and having fun and having energy and creating electricity. I'm all for it, man. This crowd, these sing alongs, are really starting to get nauseating and they're really starting to get redundant. I mean, the amount of times that I now hear somebody singing in the crowd, Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, Dirty, Dirty Dom, your sister's ass. I don't I don't know. It's just like, man, like it's getting to the point because of how frequently I hear this sing along, and now the fans in the states, they want to try to reenact everything that the international crowds are doing. It's like now a regurgitated thing, and I'm just at this point, man. All right, I'm all for making noise. I'm all for creating electricity, but I'm also all for at times to when a crowd just shuts the fuck up and let me just watch the freaking match. I mean, my God, man, it was just like on a loop, the same chants and the same sing alongs every 5 seconds, bro. I mean, at what point do we just like, do the vocal cords just start to like, just start to rupture? And can we just shut the fuck up, bro? I mean, my God, man. Listen, that might be something that a lot of you might disagree with, and that's fine. But again, I'm all for the crowd creating electricity and having fun and being loud and energetic. That's fine, man. But these regurgitated chants and how nauseating they are. I've had to mute the frickin' television when Seth's music comes out and when the frickin' Jason Yeaterman's entrance comes out. I'm starting to get to the point to where we're now in these crowds just sing along nonsensically. I'm now starting to just mute the fucking TV. It's getting that bad. So that's all I got to say, man. We got to find a balance. We got to find a mixture of different chants, whatever it is, man. I'd rather go play in traffic and get run over by a forklift or a freaking cement truck than listen to this freaking crowd sing along non-stop for several freaking minutes. With that being said, I'm just going to move on. If you guys agree with that, cool. If not, then I don't know what to tell you, man. If you like it, that's fine, to each their own. But as far as a crowd and having electricity and having that energy, sometimes when you are that obnoxiously just loud and just constantly singing and cheering and chanting, it takes away from what the performers are doing in that ring. Because let's face it, like at what point, it's not even about what's going on in the match. You're there to sing along, you're there to cheer no matter what's going on in the ring. And again, you're there as a paying customer, you get your money's worth and you have fun, that's fine. But like, at what point does it become a detriment to these freaking wrestlers who are trying to put on a good performances, a good story and a good performance and a good matchup? It's just like, we got to tone it down a little bit, man. That's all I'm asking. I'm not saying sit there in silence all the time, but every now and then, man, just shut up. Shut the fuck up. Anyway, let's finally get to this first match. First matchup of the night was Roman Reigns, your tribal chief, going up against your tribal thief, Big Bronson Reed. Roman Reigns versus Big Bronson Reed. The matchup was overall very decent. We go towards the end of the matchup to where Bronson Reed is looking to set up Roman for a tsunami. Roman Reigns gets to the second rope. He hits a Samoan backdrop from the second rope, then hits a spear to Bronson Reed, takes out Bronson. Roman goes for the cover, 1, 2, 3, and Roman Reigns wins this match. Now, my first initial thought was like, Maybe a one more spear could have at least, really made Bronson Reed look badass, really would have put like the cherry on top of this matchup. I would have done a little bit more as far as making Bronson Reed look good in defeat. At least before, of course, everything else that's happened, but as we'll get into it. But that was my first initial, thought process. I'm like, all right, a Samoan drop, okay. And then one spear, I'm like, okay, do another spear. And then he goes for the cover. I'm like, I would have done one more spear. But I let it play out to see what would happen, maybe if something else would happen afterwards. And boy, did something else happen afterwards. Post match, Paul Heyman, the Oracle, he's not the wise man or the advocate, he's the Oracle, um, is in the ring and he gives up um, the shoes. Roman Reigns' shoes. He gives him back his shoes, and Roman Reigns hoists up his shoes. Hey, I got my shoes back. But not until he gets his money's worth with Paul Heyman. He locks the guillotine on Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman drops like a ton of bricks. Paul Heyman is pretty much out. Roman Reigns, he's getting a sentimental moment. He's up on the announce table. He has his shoes back and he's signing autograph on his shoes and he's tossing it into the crowd. And then out of nowhere, Roman Reigns glances over his right shoulder and gets absolutely leveled by Braun Breaker. He gets speared by the unpredictable badass. That's right, we're calling somebody an unpredictable badass. As much as Braun Breaker has a future and does absolutely have a tremendous future, he would have more of a big future and he would have more to offer if we just stopped calling him an unpredictable badass. It just sounds so stupid. Anyway, that's my little mini rant there. But Braun Breaker sends Roman through the announce table, and the beatdown was on. Frickin', you had tsunami splashes, they had officials, they had security. This should look familiar because as far as brawl segments every single week, it's pretty similar. However, we've seen people try to break up brawls between Charlotte and Tiffany and CM Punk and Seth Rollins. And I'm thinking, like, okay, do we really need 100 security guards and 100 officials to break two people up? That's just non-realistic to do such. And it just takes away the realism of what's going on in the segment. However, with Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker, yeah, those are two dudes that you would need hundreds upon hundreds of security guards and officials to have them stop beating up on Roman Reigns. That is at least tolerable. That's believable to say, okay, that makes sense. So, Roman Reigns is up on his feet. This was before he got stretchered out, but he's up on his feet. He's about to walk up the rampway. Braun Breaker said, like, nah, man, the damage now, we're not done yet. He runs back down the ring, jumps and hits another spear onto Roman. More tsunami splashes in the middle of the ring. And that's when Roman Reigns is getting sent off into a stretcher, man. Jey Uso tried to intervene, but to no avail. So, and of course, this obviously was a way to write Roman Reigns off of television. Looks like he won't be available or he's not going to be attending WrestlePalooza. I'm guessing the next event that Roman Reigns will be attending is probably Crown Jewel. Or shoot, they might just have this dude take a 2-month vacation and he might just might not return until Survivor Series. Who the hell knows at this point? But at least for about a month and a half or so, you're probably not going to see Roman Reigns after what transpired as far as him getting written off of television. So you kind of knew, you can put two and two together of what they were trying to do. This was probably the most badass, I put that in air quotes, the most badass that WWE over the course of several weeks, that how they've been trying to portray these two. But how this was done, this was the most badass both of these two have been booked thus far. This was done very well. They let it breathe. They let it breathe. They let the moment soak in. And Roman Reigns being written off of TV, it does make sense to hold off on the Braun Breaker matchup because, now Roman Reigns, his next quest will probably to be in a one-on-one match with Braun Breaker, and I guess that's going to set him up for Seth Rollins, maybe in the near future, maybe for WrestleMania. I hope that he doesn't need to win the Royal Rumble in order to get to Seth Rollins, but who the hell knows with this company. Um, so there's that. But man, I really, really liked this, man. I really did. Obviously, of course, the matchup was fine for what it was, but it was everything afterwards to where you're actually creating a headline. You're creating something that you're getting people talking or allowing people to talk about the next day. Dude, did you see Roman Reigns get absolutely annihilated to the point to where they had to carry this dude, Roman Reigns, to get carried off into a stretcher? Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed did that. So to say that Bronson Reed was protected as far as this whole situation, you ain't talking about this dude losing to Roman Reigns and looking up at the lights. You're talking about this dude along with Braun Breaker whooping this dude's freaking ass. We're talking Roman Reigns here. So I really liked how they let it breathe. And these are moments that should be utilized for the actual shows, because if people are being honest with themselves, the build up to this has been god awful. I wish that there was a lot more interest and a lot more captivation going into the show. But instead, we kind of just hobble on one foot to these shows. We kind of just press cruise control and we just do the most simplistic things for everybody that is on this card or being planned on this card. And there's nothing, even during these PLEs most of the time, as good as the matches might be, there's still really nothing to talk about. This gives you something to talk about. This is a moment that you would want to go back and watch countless of times. Not even the matchup, but everything that happened post match. So as far as the vision of dumbasses, as I like to call them, this is the best they have looked thus far as a tandem. I'm talking both Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker side by side thus far, and I don't think it's even freaking close, man. This was a good match. Obviously, if Roman Reigns is not gonna end the show, he's going to start the show. The matchup was fine for what it was, but obviously the big headline, the big moment was everything that happened post match. And then, of course, Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed were banned from the arena. They were barred from the arena um, as far as the main event of Seth Rollins' fatal four-way match with LA Knight, Jey Uso, and CM Punk, which we will get into later. So Paul Heyman, who is pretty much under severe condition. You got Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed, who were kicked out of the building. Is Seth Rollins going to have to do this by himself later on in the night? Well, we're going to, again, we're going to talk about that later. So, but everything, man, was just so well done. When you actually take the time to let things breathe, to let things marinate, for people and fans to really soak in, that's what allows people to start talking about something. It's these moments like this to where they should be on your shows, on your actual SmackDown and Raw shows, to build you up to these shows. But to create a headline, to create a moment, this is how you would do that. Obviously, Roman Reigns is going to be fine. He's been written off TV. Hopefully there is a plan and a follow-up to all of this, because if there's not, then this is all just truly for nothing. If this kind of goes off as very just half-ass and this is not done properly, if you don't continue to build Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed the way you did in this moment, then again, it's all for nothing. But it seems like this is a way for Roman Reigns to come back, and he's going to get his vengeance now on Braun Breaker, to where he already beat Bronson Reed, but now he has a thing, with Braun Breaker now, because Braun Breaker was the dude that intervened and took him out through the table with the spear. So it's spear versus spear. They're going to hype that whole shit up. And like I said, man, Braun Breaker has a bright future in this company. There's no doubt. When he is booked properly, this dude can be something. Just stop calling him unpredictable badass, bro. It's just so stupid. Just please, man, like, we got to stop with these corny, cringy nicknames that we're giving to people, man. It's just like, Yeah, it's just like the unpredictable, more like the unpredictable dumbass. Like, oh my god, man, just enough. But anyway, yeah, a decent match for what it was. Again, I was questioned with the finish, but everything happened post match, made sense. And I hope everything continues to follow up the way that it needs to moving forward. Roman Reigns being written off TV makes sense. You want to buy some time for Braun Breaker in that big matchup. You want that to be meaningful. You want that to be special. So everything was well done as far as booking, as far as production. Of course, everybody played their part tremendously well. And there's nothing that I can really say that was bad. That was the start of the show. So Bronson Reed versus Roman Reigns, everything that happened post match, Roman Reigns getting taken off of a stretcher, getting annihilated the way he did, creating a moment that the way you did. Yeah, that was pretty solid, man. That's a way that's a way to start a PLE. How do you top that after what just transpired to start the show off? As the next matchup was the Wyatt Six versus the Street Profits. The Wyatt Six come off with the W, as they should, because they just won these championships. I know people don't like the Wyatt Six. They don't like the supernatural of it all, and them trying to be smoke and mirror, and it comes off quirky and hokey and all of this stuff. But again, don't blame the Wyatt Six Man. Blame WWE creative. Blame the fact that WWE never wants to protect anything anymore in this company. The Undertaker and so many other supernatural characters felt special because they were heavily protected. The Wyatt Six have not been heavily protected at all through this process. So yeah, they're going to be heavily exposed, and people are just not going to buy into what they're doing. And it's unfortunate, man, because even though the Wyatt Six won this match, it wasn't a bad match, but it was not memorable. They still feel very average. They don't feel important even after this big victory, and that's a shame. The match was a match. I'm sure this was, I mean, let's face it, an audible call because, Naomi and her pregnancy, Stephanie Vacure was supposed to be in this spot. So maybe that's why this matchup was called last minute. Maybe it was always the plan. I highly doubt it, but who knows? Um, but it was a match, and it was a big win for the Wyatts, but it doesn't make them it doesn't make them more badass. It still just makes them very average because that's how they've been booked up to this point. It's already a detriment with this tag division of how poorly you've booked it, because everybody, as far as the tag division, you see this week to week, to where everybody is thrown in one segment because we don't know what to do with any of these teams collectively. So the easy way is just to throw everybody in one match in one segment. Everybody's backstage arguing or with Adam Pearce. And then when we get to the PLE, we're just going to throw everybody in a match in a triple fatal four-way tag. And everybody's going to do the flips and the dives, and everybody's going to get their spots in. So at least you had a one-on-one tag match here. It's face versus face. If we're, I guess you could say the Wyatts are faces. I don't even know what the Wyatts are. I guess they're freaking, yeah. I mean, yeah, they're faces pretty much. Again, and that's what sucks, is to where you don't even know, definitively know, you don't even 100% know what the Wyatt Six even are. That's what just is so baffling and what's so horrible about this situation. So yeah, the Wyatt Six titles are not going to make them any more prestigious. They don't necessarily need championships, but this is the situation we're in, and you've given them the titles, and you have to rock with them until you have a team that you have properly booked to take the titles away from the Wyatt Six. You keep the titles on the Wyatt Six. That might be an unpopular take to a lot of people, because a lot of people, again, they just don't like the Wyatt Six. They don't like the supernatural stuff. They think it's stupid. It's unfortunate because of course, you guys know how I feel about Bray. I want this to work, but the match didn't do anything more for the Wyatts after this victory. It sucks, man. And then for the Street Profits, man, they're teasing a split between the two. It seems like there's a little bit of friction, a little bit of miscommunication. At least that's what they're teasing. But the match ended, and that was pretty much it. So I'm guessing that's going to follow up on SmackDown. However, man, I feel like it's too little too late. If you were gonna split the Street Profits, you had to have done it by now. Unless they're gonna go the route what they did with the New Day and they're both gonna turn heel. They're gonna tease the fact that they might turn on one another, but that they end up just turning heel and now they go the dark route, the dark side of things. But you just did that with the New Day, and now you're gonna do that with the Street Profits. And even if you do have the Street Profits break up, it's just that the moment for them to break up was a long time ago. I don't know if you remember when Montez Ford was in the Elimination Chamber match. I think that was what, maybe 2 years ago? Around that time, that was for Montez Ford to hit the gas pedal and to give him that rocket. But, Montez Ford has stated that he wanted to stay in this tag team with Dawkins and to make this work. So yeah, maybe he can still go out on his own and he can still deliver. And for Dawkins, we're wishing nothing but the best too, if that's the case here. But if they were gonna do it, man, I think it's too little, too late. Even if you break up the Street Profits, yeah, the moment might be cool, but moving forward, man, like what's gonna give us any benefit of the doubt that they're gonna do this properly? And it's a mixed bag because again, on one end, they've kind of missed their shot to break up this tandem and to do it right and to do it memorable and to do it at the right time. But at the same time, there's really nothing else for the Street Profits to do. They've won championships, you've done everything. And, on one end, you don't even have to freaking split up the Street Profits. If you want to build a tag division with the Street Profits, freaking do that. Just book them properly. The Street Profits can be a damn good tag team if you let them be. But they can only do so much with half-ass booking. And because you have nothing for them, because you don't know what else to do with them, let's just turn them because there's nothing else for them to do. And as much as we want Montez Ford to finally be free, maybe of this tag team, and to show what Montez Ford has always been capable of as a singles competitor, even that moment is not going to feel as special as it could have been if you would have pulled the trigger months, years ago. Everything as far as the situation, the Wyatts, the Profits, it's all just dead on arrival because of how horrible this tag division is booked and how this company puts 0 ounce into anything in this division. And that's what sucks, man. So it was a match. The Wyatt Six retain as they should. If you are gonna tease a split between the two, between the Street Profits, Montez Ford, and Dawkins. So yeah, not bad, just not memorable. The Wyatt Six still don't feel important, and the Street Profits breaking up, cool, I guess. Montez Ford can finally go on his own, but is it too little, too late? Is that spark that Montez Ford did have years ago, a year ago, to where people were at an uproar for Montez Ford to go on a singles push, but has that light dimmered down now? Because now the talk a lot about is Mello. Lately, it's been about Karrion Kross. You don't really hear a lot of people even talk about Montez Ford. People like Montez Ford. People know what he's capable of. But has that spark dimmered down when everybody in unison wanted this dude to get a singles push, wanted to let this dude rock as a singles competitor? It's very fair to say. So who knows, man? Who the hell knows? But moving on as far as that situation. So again, it was a match, but it's not memorable. And the Wyatt Six, it's a big W for them, but we all know it's not going to lead to anything. And unfortunately, this did not make them feel any more important nor badass as it should have. And that's just it. Becky Lynch versus Nikki Bella in a one-on-one match. This was for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. The matchup was fine, other than there was a big botch to where I think Nikki Bella went up on the second rope. She springboarded off the second rope by the turnbuckle, looked like she was going for a Pele kick. Now, a lot of people are ripping Nikki Bella apart. Clearly, there was some miscommunication on that whole spot. I don't really put it all on Nikki, though, because if you go back and watch it, it seems like Becky might have been too late to her spot. For everybody to just put the blame on Nikki Bella, I think is just very ignorant to do. Here's the only two ways that I can look at this. Either Nikki Bella was too early or Becky Lynch was too late to get into her position. It was one of the two. But I'm not putting this all on Nikki Bella, man. This was clearly a miscommunication from the two. It was a bad spot. It definitely was a damper during the matchup, and it was unfortunate. But the rest of this matchup was fine, man. I had no issue with the rest of this match. This matchup was fine for what it was, and it was what it was supposed to be. The finish, man. The finish is so stupid. I've seen this a lot. I don't know what it is, but we're seeing a lot of roll-up finishes, and mainly with the women's division. We saw it on SmackDown twice, right? This is how inept WWE is. They don't even realize that they're doing the same finish on the same freaking show within less than a half an hour between segments. And now you go into the show just 2 days afterwards into this PLE, and you're doing a roll-up finish with Becky. And I'm sorry, man. Even though, of course, Becky winning was obvious, and of course it's the right call. But the finish, man, is lackluster, man. We can't be doing these roll-up finishes, man, to where it's just a lazy finish, and sometimes it just doesn't look good. It can get very messy and it doesn't come across believable depending on who is being pinned and who's pinning a certain individual. So that's why I just can't stand the finish, man. It depends on the setting, depends on the story, and it depends on the two individuals applying this roll-up. So I just can't stand it, man. I wish they could have done a better finish. The finish was lackluster. We got to stop with these roll-up finishes with the women, man. I'm seeing it too often over the past several days, man. It's a regurgitated, maybe not regurgitated, but it is a recycled thing that's getting way too repetitive now. Did it with Michin and Kiana James. You did it with freaking Alexa Bliss and Chelsea Green. It's got to stop, man. Right? We got to get creative with the ladies and these finishes. We can't keep doing this, man. We've done it with Alexa Bliss for several freaking weeks. You got to get more creative with the finishes with these women's matches. They can't always be a roll-up finish because, one, it's not making anybody stand out with the exact same finish, and B, it just doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. It comes across lazy and it comes across lackluster. And if it's not done precisely, it just doesn't come across looking good. It just doesn't. Again, the matchup was what it was supposed to be. I'm fine with the match. A lot of people might rip it apart because of the botch that I mentioned earlier. Again, I don't put that all on Nikki Bella. I can say from two different lenses to where you can say, yes, Nikki was early to deliver the Pele kick off the second turnbuckle, springboarding off the turnbuckle, or Becky Lynch was late. Either way, it was a miscommunication by both ladies. And that's just as honest as I can be as far as that situation. So, but yeah, man, these roll-up finishes, man, we gotta back off of them because it's happening way too frequently. We gotta get more creative with the ladies as far as the finish of these matches. We go into, oh man, the Donnybrook match. Sheamus and Rusev in a Donnybrook match. There's nothing else to see between these two anymore. The matchup was what I expected it was going to be. There were weapons, there was chaos, there was brawling, there was shillelaghs, there was freaking what do you call it? Like a whiskey barrels. There was a spot to where Sheamus delivered white noise off the barrels and onto two chairs. I'm guessing that's the moment where I'm supposed to chant, "This is awesome. This is awesome." Or better yet, "Fight forever." Right? All the chants that we want to chant. Again, freaking Francis going nuts. Again, they would also go nuts if the fucking clown was on a unicycle, but I digress. So again, man, I don't know what else that we need to see anymore between these two because they've also fought over a decade ago. What else is there need to see other than history and other than brawls? They were brawling up until this point, and there was more brawls and more chaos into it. Was it a fun match to a degree? Sure. The finish was actually really good. to where Rusev applied the accolade and had a shillelagh and had it into the mouth of Sheamus, and that's how he collected the W. So this was a big victory for Rusev. Rusev has now been here since what? The Raw after Mania was what? Back in April. So April, May, June, July, August. We're talking almost 5 months, little over 5 months, close to 6 months. And Rusev has done nothing. Absolutely nothing. So this was a match that Rusev could not have lost. He needed this match. Rusev had more to lose in this match. He just did. And he could not have afforded to lose this freaking match. I know we like Sheamus. We want him to be a Grand Slam champion, and we want to praise the dude and put him on a pedestal for all the bangers that he puts on with people like Drew McIntyre and Gunther and all of these people. People like frickin' has he had a matchup with Dragunov? I don't think he has. Dragunov's supposed to come back, by the way. That's very exciting news. Well, exciting, but yet who knows how he's going to be booked, but that's a future discussion for a different day. But either way, man, we put Sheamus on this pedestal, and good for, listen, Sheamus, much love to the dude. He's a consistent worker. He goes out there and he does what he needs to do. There's just nothing interesting about what he's doing. And that's the disconnect with Sheamus. And Sheamus, he's very well liked in the IWC, the wrestling fan base. So Sheamus, I don't think loses anything from this. But Rusev losing this matchup would have deteriorated everything as far as you bringing back Rusev and you making him anything as far as what he once was when he was, alongside Lana, in his old Rusev crush shtick, which I guess you could say he still is in now. But this loss would have derailed Rusev, derailed him. But this was Rusev's big moment. This was his big break, and you need to now follow up with this. Get him away from Sheamus. There's nothing else that you need to do with him and Sheamus moving forward. You did this freaking Donnybrook match. You've had several matches leading up to this point. You've done several matchups in the past. You now have to follow up with this for Rusev. This was a big victory for him, and a really good finish in a big memorable moment in that said matchup. Of course, with the white noise through the tables on the outside, if anybody wants to count that. But you cannot follow this up with these two just going at it once again on Monday Night Raw tomorrow night. You cannot do that shit. At some point, man, you have to allow fans to give a shit about Rusev and what he is doing. And since he has came back to WWE, you have not done that. This was a big victory for him. You need to capitalize on this moving forward. So Rusev winning is 100% the right call. This does nothing for Sheamus. This does absolutely no harm to the dude. The dude has a good fan base, and he's still very well liked in the wrestling community. But Rusev needed something. He needed a big victory. He needed his moment. He needed his calling card for returning to WWE. And outside of his debut, nobody has spoken about this dude. Nobody has cared about him. Well, now, after this big victory, this is a way for you to, add momentum to carry this on into Monday Night Raw. Will they? Probably not. But we can dream. We hold out hope because we're wrestling fans, and that's what we do, I guess, right? So again, the match was a match. I didn't care for the match. The match was what I expected it was going to be. A lot of chaos and a lot of weapons involved. Again, the finish I thought was pretty cool. It was probably the coolest part of the whole match. So I guess you can say that kind of maybe not, I guess, uplifts the entire match, or it makes up for how, I guess, maybe predictable the matchup was as far as what the action was going to be. But hey, if you like the match, much props to you. I did not care for this match. I just did not. I've seen enough brawling between these two till 2035. So yeah, I hope that now we move on for Rusev. I'm not talking about a championship, but move him on to something else. Move him on to something that's going to evolve his character and to evolve to evolve the story that he is with, whoever that is. And for Sheamus, man, again, I know we like Sheamus. I know we put him on a pedestal for all the bangers that he puts on, but he could not have won this match. And right now, Sheamus is just at a point to where, again, if you want to find him something for people to gain interest in, if there's a way creatively, then I'm all for it. But right now, Rusev just came back. Rusev is one of your guys to where your big signees that you brought over back from AEW, you got to now move the ball with him. It's now more than ever. So will they do that? Again, with this company, I don't know if we put any trust or any faith that they're going to do that, but who knows? Time will only tell. The match was the match. It was a street fight Donnybrook match. They had some decent spots, and yeah, I didn't care for it, but the finish was decent, and it put Rusev on a pedestal. It gave him a moment, and now it's time for WWE to capitalize on his momentum. And that's all I can say. Will they do that? Probably not, but we'll find out tomorrow night. Moving on. The co-main event was Jonathan Cena versus Logan Paul. Again, the matchup was what I expected it was going to be. This was a pretty decent matchup. The crowd actually stopped cheering and singing, and by the end of this matchup, they were actually paying attention to this matchup. What a crazy concept, man. Just let the performers just do what they need to do. Sometimes, yes, it's important to create noise and to create electricity, but you can't do it to a point to where it just becomes so annoying and it becomes overbearing to where you're just overshadowing what the wrestlers are doing in that ring. So finally they shut the fuck up and they allowed Cena and Logan Paul to work in this matchup. So when it was all said and done, Logan Paul lays a right hand to John Cena. He springs off of the ropes. He ducks the second right hand, delivers an AA, collapses into the cover. 1, 2, 3. And John Cena picks up this W. Logan Paul had no choice but to lose this matchup. So this was obviously the right call. I'll be honest with you, man. I've never been the biggest fan of John Cena. I've always liked John Cena, but I've never been the biggest fan of him. And I don't know if it's because of just the lack of creativity to continue to build larger than life characters. But now on this retirement tour, man, and I've said this entire year, I've been just appreciating what John Cena and who he is and the talent that he does possess now more than ever in his career. I mean, we can go back to all the big promo segments that he's been in and the storylines that he's been in. Again, one of them was one of the first feuds that I ever came across as a fan was with him and Edge, man. And that was my first introduction to Cena. And I've always liked Cena. I never was a massive fan of the dude, but everything as far as what John Cena has done, you always need to see what's going on. Everything that John Cena does when he's in that ring, it's like you have to tune in to see what happens as far as a match, as far as who he's in the ring with. It's like you can't look away because that's just what he has built himself as far as the name value that he possesses and the talent that he does possess and the just the presentation of how he does cut promos and how he does talk on that microphone. He does bring a presence now with his I say presence with when he wears freaking a t-shirt and jean shorts, but you get my point. Yeah, it's just it's sometimes it's now the little things over the past several years. And I started to feel this before the retirement tour, but now more than ever, really appreciating John Cena and just himself and who he is and his talent. Because again, WWE is just, they're not outside of maybe a handful of people, if you want to name names, but a handful of people, maybe like a Roman Reigns, maybe a Seth, Cody Rhodes, I guess. There's not a whole lot of people. That Randy Orton that's still left. there's not a whole lot of people. And slowly but surely, man, even when Roman Reigns starts to be more part-time, with Seth Rollins is eventually going to be part-time, it's like, who are you going to have left, man? There's really nobody. Yes, there's a lot of people that have potential to reach that type of superstardom, that name value, but you're not booking them that way, at least so far as of right now. So the matchup, again, going back to this match, Logan Paul again could not have lost this match, so this was the right call. John Cena moving forward, and there was no Brock Lesnar, which I don't know if it was a good thing or bad thing, to where it's just it's DOA, because it's weird that he's not there in Paris to continue a story with Cena. And even if he was there, is he even going to be there Raw or SmackDown to tell the story? You got WrestlePalooza coming up in just a couple of weeks, and what we're hearing, it's supposed to be a match between Brock and Cena. So you'd think that he's got to make an appearance at some point, you would think, right? But it sucks because he shows up at SummerSlam and he has not been back now for almost a month. And you've now utilized this story with Logan as, I guess, a short little feud, a one-off. And it, by the time Brock Lesnar does come back, like, are people still going to be invested in what you're trying to sell to people? Brock Lesnar, John Cena, you're not telling anything. And by the time maybe Brock does finally maybe give an explanation of why he's doing what he's doing, I highly doubt that, because he's done the same thing with Cody when he attacked him the Raw after WrestleMania 2 years ago. And for months on end, you never got an explanation. Nothing. To where he just shakes Cody Rhodes' hand at SummerSlam of that year in 2023, and you haven't seen Brock Lesnar since then. So again, this is what I mean, man, about WWE just wanting to book the moment, right? And again, it's important to have moments in pro wrestling, but if that's all you're just relying on, if that's what you're using as a crutch, people are going to see through the lines. They're going to read through your bullshit, and they're going to be like, nah, man, it's too little too late. You held this off for several weeks to a month. We don't care anymore. And we've seen this between Brock and Cena before. So if you're going to do a final showdown, they both have to be. Brock Lesnar has to be there. So what? He's going to be there for one performance. Maybe he's going to do a face-off. Maybe they're going to do a one-on-one promo segment, and they're going to reiterate everything about the IWC, right? The oohs and the ahs, and the John Cena's going to lay in his mic skills, and he's going to spit on that microphone. Who the hell knows? But there was no Brock Lesnar, as most people expected there would be. And even if there was, again, man, because of Brock Lesnar and him not being there, because of John Cena, and he's already, part-time with his retirement tour, what story can you truly tell? And that's the unfortunate situation. I've said this from SmackDown. When he came back, the reason why he came back was when Michael Cole reiterated on commentary is that Nick Khan and Triple H called him. And that's been the only piece of Brock Lesnar that you have freaking told for over a month. So by the time you do go back and resume this whole shtick between Brock and Cena, don't expect a lot of people to care, WWE, because right now they don't. They don't. So you're going to have to do X, Y, and Z. You're going to have to do 10 times the work if you're going to really want to sell people to get invested with John Cena and Brock Lesnar for WrestlePalooza. And that's it, man. So John Cena wins, right call. Logan Paul, it's going to be just fine. He takes the loss. It does nothing to him. Logan Paul, again, no matter what you want to say about the dude, even though the matches are rehearsed and things are padded down to a T, he still has to go out there and perform it. And he does it to the best of his ability. And my tap kit tips off to him, and my salute goes out to him. What he does moving forward, we'll soon find out. It sucks that we talk about also heels, man, to where John Cena had to turn into a heel because there was no other heels in this company. And it sucks that Logan Paul, because Gunther is is not on the roster because of an injury. You have Solo Sikoa and a Sethington Rollins. Those are your top heels in this company. That's what sucks, man. There's no diabolical heels. And for Logan Paul to be one of them, that says a lot, man, about just how pitiful and how horrible things are creatively. But anyway, let's move on. Let's finally get into the main event. This was a fatal four-way match. I can't stand fatal four-way matches because it is lazy and lackluster booking to where we have nothing for any of these other individuals. Let's just throw them in a fatal four-way match. You know, it's just every once in a while, if it makes sense, cool, do it. But fatal four-way matches like this, man, because of how lackluster everything has been, how just uneventful everything has been with Seth Rollins and the championship and everyone else around him, it doesn't make these fatal four-way matches any better of how you've booked this up to this point. Just do one-on-one matches, bro. Like seriously, just one-on-one champion challenger. That's it, man. You don't need to throw a bunch of freaking names in the freaking title match because you have nothing else for them. So fatal four ways and how they're booked, depending on how they're booked, I just do not like it. I just don't understand it. It makes no sense. It comes across just very, very lazy. But the matchup was fine. There was nothing bad about the match at all. Everybody did their thing, including Jey Uso. Everybody was fine. It was everything by the end of this match and post-match that has the people talking. So you got Jey Uso and you got LA Knight laid out. Seth Rollins hits a stomp to Jason Uso. Seth Rollins hits a stomp to LA Knight. Both are just done. They're taken out of the equation outside of the ring. And now it's just CM Punk and it's Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins looks to go for a stomp. He's got CM Punk's head through the steel chair. CM Punk sidesteps it. Seth Rollins stomps his foot. He's trying to sell a knee injury after now hitting the chair, and it looked like he messed up his knee. Punk hits the GTS to Seth Rollins. He bounces off the ropes and falls straight onto Punk's shoulders. Punk goes for another GTS when somebody from behind delivers a massive low blow. CM Punk drops like a ton of bricks. He drops right where he stands. And the mystery attacker, as this person had the black hood and the black ski mask across their face, and it's revealed to be Becky Lynch. The man has arrived to save her man, her husband, Seth Rollins, from losing his championship. So Seth takes advantage. Punk is trying to get back to his feet. He's trying to gain consciousness. Seth Rollins hits the stomp to CM Punk, lays him out. You can count to 100, goes for the cover, 1, 2, 3, and Seth Rollins retains his World Heavyweight Championship. The stomp was onto the steel chair, by the way. I forgot to mention that. So while Punk is getting back to his feet, Seth Rollins hits the stomp onto the chair, and then that's when Seth goes for the cover, wins this match, and retains his championship. When you don't have your vision of dumbasses with you, when your oracle is hospitalized somewhere in France, you call upon your gal. You call upon your wife to help you out. And that's what Seth Rollins did as far as this situation is concerned. Now, look, I don't know how people feel about this situation. I don't mind this at all. I've been saying it for weeks. I even said it already in the show. Becky Lynch has done a tremendous job for the last several weeks and months. She's played a better heel than her husband as of late. You can make the argument. Becky Lynch is doing tremendously well. And how you did, and I will give WWE credit for how you did set this up to where Seth Rollins, it seems like he's by himself and he doesn't have an oracle. He doesn't have his vision of dumbasses with him. So Becky Lynch is the person that is the only person that has Seth Rollins' back in that locker room, realistically, because they're husband and wife. So she comes to the aid for her man and helps his man, Seth Rollins, win the championship. So at least as far as that whole thing is concerned, was done well, and I have no issue with it. And the booking of it makes sense to a degree. Um, but I think you guys know where I'm going with this, man, as far as what this can lead to. Because Seth Rollins decided to insert his significant other into this equation. And CM Punk also happens to have a significant other in his corner, someone known as AJ Lee, April Mendez, somebody who happens to be a former Divas champion, who happens to be a badass, who happened to be one of the best trailblazing women's wrestlers that this company has ever had in its history. And that is AJ Lee, the wife of CM Punk Phil Brooks. I'm going to say this right now, man. The ball is in WWE's court. The only right answer for you to go about this situation, April Mendez, AJ Lee, now needs to be a part of this situation. It's time for AJ Lee to wipe the dust off her wrestling boots and frickin' whoop some frickin' ass onto Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins, man. You got Becky, you got Seth, and you got CM Punk and AJ Lee. Because at this point, for how personal WWE wants to claim this rivalry has been between Seth and between CM Punk, for how personal it is, for how they just don't like one another, and how Seth Rollins has claimed time and time again that he would do anything for CM Punk to just go away, to be done with WWE, to never hold on to that world championship. And it's gotten to the point to where he has to now call his significant other to help him out and retain his championship. If that does not follow up with CM Punk playing fire with fire and getting his wife to come on to the WWE scene, to WWE television, and to be a part of this situation with Seth and Becky, it's going to be dead on arrival. There is no other situation. There is no other route that you can go than to not have AJ Lee a part of this situation. It's sitting in your lap, dude. It is sitting perfectly in your lap. The ball is in WWE's court. But here's the problem. With everybody already talking about this, it's already being talked about. Everybody's hopes are high. Everybody's dreaming big. CM Punk, AJ Lee, Seth Rollins, and Becky Lynch. It's got to happen, man. It's time. It's got to happen. And I agree with everybody. I want to hold out hope just as much as anybody in this situation. There is a lot of good and captivating stuff that could come out of this situation. And because of Becky Lynch's involvement, because there is a lot of people talking, WWE accomplished what they set out to accomplish, which is get people talking. However, man, if you listen the way that WWE wants to claim that they listen to their audience, you would get this done. You would get AJ Lee into your system, onto your product, to be alongside her husband, CM Punk Phil Brooks, to fight off against Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. And the pop and the reaction that she would get the first time that she has come onto the WWE scene in over a decade. There's no other option. Because guys, what other decision that they're going to do? A Nikki Bella? Lyra Valkyria? Because we also got to remember, man, this is WWE that we're talking about. Something that is so simplistic, something that is sitting in their lap. Triple H and the geniuses backstage, they will find a way to disappoint everybody, and they will screw this up. And I know what you're saying to yourself, right, James? That's so negative, right? Come on, man, be hopeful. I am being hopeful. I got no choice but to be hopeful. And trust me, I want AJ Lee. I have been preaching to the high heavens for AJ Lee to show up back in WWE now that CM Punk is back in WWE, now more than anybody in this community. But again, man, this is WWE that we're talking about. This is the same company that doesn't like to do anything in the long term. This is the same company that botched the New Day heel turn, that botched the John Cena heel turn, that botched him going back into a face. Right? The same company that decided to put a triple threat match with no title on the line at this year's WrestleMania. The same company that decided to say, yeah, let's have Travis Scott be the last visual for every wrestling fan watching at WrestleMania 41 Night 2, because unfortunately we didn't have The Rock, so this is our audible. This is the same company that we're talking about, man. So as much as I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, as much as I don't want to be the Debbie Downer, but I feel like I'm the only one that is just prepared for the disappointment, because that's what just WWE is known for. They're not known for the long-term booking, man. They're not known for listening to the wrestling audience anymore, the hardcore, diehard wrestling fan anymore. Just not. Because they've made their money. They know that people are going to attend and sing along and do all the cheers and the chants anyway. So as much as we do want to be hopeful, and there's nothing wrong with being hopeful, but don't be shocked, man, that all this is going to turn out to be, if there is a mixed tag match, it's probably just going to be Becky and Seth versus Punk and Nikki Bella, or a Lyra Valkyria. It's one of the two. It's either going to be Lyra or it's either going to be Nikki Bella. I'm telling you, watch. And I think we can all agree, man, that's not good enough. It's not good enough, man. For how you have set this up, for how you allowed Seth Rollins, a guy that has had this much animosity with CM Punk, he's had to bring his significant other into the equation, and you don't follow this up with AJ Lee inserting herself into this. No matter what you got to do, you got to pick up that phone, however many zeros you got to write on that check, talking to Phil Brooks, CM Punk, whatever it is you got to do, you got to do it. But the ball's in WWE's court, whether they want to follow this up or not, whether they want to actually listen to what everybody is talking about. If it is a Nikki Bella, if it is a Lyra Valkyria, it is a massive botch. Point blank, period. That's it. This is too big. This is too massive. This is too simplistic for WWE to fuck up. And I'm telling you this right now. This has to be the final straw as far as people and how they feel about Triple H's booking, and they think he books in the long term. I've already dispatched myself from that a long ass time ago, as you guys already know. But for all the people that still want to cling on to that hope that Triple H cares about his wrestlers and knows how to long-term book, if it's not AJ Lee that ends up in this situation, I really hope that this is the last straw for a lot of people that have defended Triple H, that say he long-term books, and all of this bullshit that people want to spew about his booking. This needs to be the final straw that broke the camel's back if this company, specifically Triple H, does not deliver. If you do not deliver AJ Lee, this is a botch, a straight up botch. It is a freaking bust. It is sitting in your lap. You got to do whatever it is you got to do to get AJ Lee on WWE television and to tell this story. There's no other option. Any other option is flat out unacceptable. Unacceptable. And that's my mini rant, man. You cannot fuck this up. For everything that WWE has fucked up, you cannot fuck this up for how easily this has fell into your lap. You would think WWE would do the right thing, that they would do the smart thing, they would do the most interesting, fun thing to insert AJ Lee along with CM Punk to fight off against his bitter rival, Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch, who was putting on her best work out of anybody on that roster and the best work that she's put on in her career, and she's taking on AJ Lee. How badass is that, man? And the only way that this could go horribly wrong is that WWE uses Nikki Bella or a Lyra Valkyria or a Bailey, whoever it is. If it's any of those names, it's much love to those ladies. Much love to Nikki Bella. I think Nikki Bella gets a little bit too much hate. I don't want to say too much hate. She gets unnecessary amount of hate sometimes, and I do think she has put on decent work with Becky Lynch as of late. Lyra Valkyria, I think she did do a very good, has done very well for herself. Let me start that over. Lyra Valkyria has done very well for herself over the last several weeks and months. And even Bailey, to where Bailey, she's in this new gimmick change. But if it was any of those names, man, that would not be acceptable. It just wouldn't be. You cannot end the show the way you just did tonight or this afternoon and not follow this up with something big. If it's not AJ Lee, it is a bust. It is a botch. And that's it, man. That's as honest as I can be. There is not a whole lot that you can grasp in this company. But if you can find a way to insert AJ Lee, no matter how many zeros you got to write on that check, no matter how many phone calls that you got to make, you get it done. And we'll be hopeful. I want to be hopeful. I have no choice but to be hopeful. And I want this to work. I said it earlier. I want AJ Lee to be back in this company more than anybody. But again, we got to sit back and remind ourselves, this is Triple H who we're talking about. This is WWE that we're talking about. This is the company that just wants to that just wants to operate business, going after the bottom dollar. This is the same company that doesn't listen to the hardcore wrestling audience anymore. So the ball's in their court, man. They have something to really get the product to be interesting again. There has not been a whole lot of things to be interested as far as maybe whatever John Cena's doing. If people are interested in John Cena's retirement tour and they're big John Cena fans and they're going to be along for the ride. Outside of what Becky Lynch is maybe doing as far as her gimmick. But there's nothing else. But AJ Lee inserting herself into this situation because Seth Rollins decided to insert his significant other into this situation? What other option is there? The answer is that there isn't. There is not another answer. So that's it, man. We'll see how this unfolds Monday night on Raw. But overall, man, from Roman Reigns being written off of TV, Becky Lynch joining the Vision or the Vision of Dumbasses, how you did insert Becky into this because the rest of the group was barred from the building. Paul Heyman is still unconscious somewhere in a hospital in France, unoccupied to be there for Seth Rollins. The matchup itself was okay. Nothing spectacular, nothing memorable, nothing bad. But we can all agree that this is a big headline that's got everybody talking. And if that's what WWE accomplished to do, is to at least get people talking, whether that is to bring AJ Lee in or not, if it is to plant seeds to bring in AJ Lee or not, I'm not setting myself up to be that hopeful to be let down because I'm expecting this to be the opposite of what everybody is expecting. And that is they're probably just going to insert Nikki or Lyra Valkyria, which is unacceptable to be alongside CM Punk. So I am prepared for the disappointment, unlike a lot of people maybe, as they're just too hopeful. They're like, oh, it's AJ Lee or nothing. You got to insert AJ Lee into this. And I agree. But I'm telling you this right now, man, don't be too quick to give WWE the benefit of the doubt, because this is a company that does not book for the long term anymore. You can go back to the New Day heel turn. You can go back to the John Cena heel turn. You can go back to the Cody Rhodes and Brock feud several years ago, to all the Judgment Day stuff, to the Bloodline stuff that's been flatlined, that's just hit a brick wall. Chad Gable and Otis, that had a lot of potential, that had zero payoff because you wanted to rush Chad Gable to the Wyatt Six. We haven't seen or cared about Otis ever since that whole charade ended, unfortunately. There was no payoff. There really was no ending. The only thing that Triple H maybe has something to latch onto is Drew McIntyre and Punk, and that was over a bracelet. Outside of that, there's been nothing. Don't give me the Bloodline. Don't give me Judgment Day. That's been everything that you rested on what Vince McMahon started, that you've also heavily botched in the process, because it was Triple H's decision to think it was a good idea for Cody Rhodes to lose at WrestleMania 39, be in that feud with Brock Lesnar, to have no feud whatsoever, to have no explanation for Brock Lesnar whatsoever. And you expect me to not be prepared for the disappointment if WWE does not deliver on what they can do with this long term? Do you really think that WWE is going to do anything right moving forward? Come on, bro. If we're all being honest with ourselves, man. So, look, man, I hope I'm wrong. The way I see it is that I'm prepared for disappointment. It's not going to be AJ Lee. It's probably just going to be Nikki Bella or Lyra Valkyria. And that's unacceptable. For how much respect I do have for those ladies, and I don't dislike them, but there is no other option as far as what this story can be and what you have to follow up with this now. Any other option outside of AJ Lee is not acceptable. It's just not. But as far as this show is concerned, Becky Lynch's involvement, some of the performances, Roman Reigns being written off TV, how you made Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker look, there was a lot of good in this show. A lot of good in this show. It just sucks that there was no excitement leading into it. And hopefully that changes. Probably not, as they now move over to ESPN and their streaming service, their streaming app, starting in a couple weeks for WrestlePalooza. So, yeah, man. There was a lot of good. There was still a lot of bad. But a lot of good to where it gives you reasons to be hopeful. It gives you a reason to at least maybe tune in to see, maybe I'll stick around to see where this Seth and Becky stuff goes. To where maybe AJ Lee might get inserted and team with Punk. Maybe. You know, how you follow up with Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker after what they just did to Roman Reigns. But the problem is, man, is that we've fallen into this trap before. They've put on decent performances. WWE has done a lot of good things in their PLEs. There's no shade in that. They've had some decent PLEs. I've acknowledged that many times in the past, but unfortunate is that they don't follow up. They don't allow fans to be along for the ride. They don't give anybody true, captivating television and creativity. So again, the ball is in their court. The ball is in Triple H's court to execute of how you ended this show this afternoon. If it's not AJ Lee, it is a massive botch. The ball's in your court. And that's it. That is going to do it, man. That has been your Clash in Paris review. Clash in Paris 2025. Thank you guys so much. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Again, want to give a shout out to my co-host. He will be back with me this coming Friday. This is the final episode before we start season number 9. We already got a bunch of stories, some juicy wrestling stories and topics for you guys for that Friday show. A lot of things that has transpired over the past couple weeks, of course, outside of wrestling television. So stay tuned for that. Again, we got the Sports Corner. Football season has started. Baseball season, we're nearing close to the postseason, MLB playoffs and all of that stuff. So stay tuned for some sports talk for the Ruthless Talk Sports Corner and much more content to come. Once again, check us on Instagram and TikTok. You see the banner down below, Ruthless_Talk. We are also available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube. Once again, thank you guys so much for everybody subscribing on YouTube. Make sure you guys help out the algorithm. Make sure you guys spread the word and get your boys to 500 subscribers on YouTube. I am just so grateful for this platform and how far it has come. It has been crazy how much this platform has gained as far as viewership and, followers and subscribers. And I'm very grateful for that, man. And I know Brian is as well, as we've talked about it, or we both talked about it just 2 days ago. I know he's excited to be back on the platform, as am I. But yeah, for many, many months of doing solo shows, reviews, your favorite dynamic duo will be back starting this Friday for season number 9 of Ruthless Talk. Stay tuned and for much more content to come. That has been your WWE Clash in Paris review for 2025, August 31st, 2025. My name is James Porcelli. I'm signing off, saying salute, peace out, take care, everybody. Top guys, I'm out.
The skin is dry and pale, the pain will never fail, and so we go back to the remedy.